Hi, I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
And Lisa Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? MMAzing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host, Dr. Law. With me, as always, DJ Mark.
Sup?
Also joining me this week, Lavender Gooms.
What up?
Finally, a man joining us this week who, I swear to God, up until a minute ago, I thought he was wearing a Mighty Ducks hat and not a University of Oregon hat. Don't know why. Kid Presentable.
Well, you were talking about a Mighty Duck show on Disney Plus,
Yes.
so it is on the mind. It is topical. It's not out of the blue.
That is true. I do watch that show. It is okay, actually.
It is excellent. Shut your mouth, except besides the fact you're hosting the show. But for right now, shut your mouth. That show is excellent.
Speaking of the Mighty Ducks, I'm curious if anyone even remembers this. In my little chest of old action figures that my mom dug out of storage and just gave to me, and I don't have the heart to throw away,
I'm going to say yes already.
Do you remember the Mighty Duck anthropomorphized
Yep.
superheroes?
Yeah.
I got those guys.
Did we all know this is where that was going? Because I was positive the second he started
What
talking.
action figure did they make?
I remember seeing that.
It was one of the last shows on the Disney afternoon.
It was a terrible show. I remember thinking, like, what the fuck? This is not the same thing.
I remember watching it and enjoying it. I can't tell you a single plot line, but I enjoyed it.
Youth Troop, it was not.
All right, boys and girls. We're going to talk about Triller Fight Club and their event this past weekend where young Jake Paul knocked out an MMA fighter with a hip replacement that Mike and I both picked to win. So I'm really feeling good when I verbalize all that shit right there, guys.
Once those back rolls came out, I thought someone might have been bold enough to change their pick, but props for at least sticking with your incorrectness.
Props for Ben Askren not wearing a t-shirt out to the ring.
I mean, honestly,
He's got a t-shirt out to the ring body going on. I'm going to the pool. I'm going to wear a t-shirt.
I mean, part of me when picking him was just like, I just can't pick him to lose this fight. I'm going to feel bad. I feel bad either way. So here we are.
It just couldn't have gone worse for the guy.
I feel like an asshole that when they did the weigh-ins, and I am not one that should be body shaming, but this is when I thought specifically, okay, I'm in trouble. He was so out of shape, his nipples were uneven. It's like, you got to be a special level of you're not doing any push-ups, that your nipples are like ski slopes.
Yeah, honestly,
in terms of an angle.
This show's got a lot to talk about, and we're not going to break every moment of it down, but there is actually like, I've actually been thinking about the card for 2 days now. A lot of different, not like exactly what happened.
Did it really happen? Was it a fever dream?
It's not even, it's just like, I don't know. It's like we all do this podcast about the sport we very much like, but then like it's also combat sports, and I don't know what Shayna Baszler tweeted about how everything is pro wrestling really stuck with me, guys. Let me just say that too.
I would counter argument. Not everything is good pro wrestling.
Exactly.
There are levels to that shit too.
Exactly. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Triller event. We're going to talk about Bobby Knuckles, Kelvin Gastelum, in what was truly a great fight that nobody watched. I think I think it was like, I turned it on the second Askren and Paul was done, and they were like maybe a minute left in the first round, I think, maybe, the way it lined up. If I was the UFC, I was just like, we got to get this shit done early, but whatever. We're going to talk about that. We're going to mention the results from the Bellator card this past weekend, which nobody watched, but there's a tournament going on. The only thing I saw was Paul Daly ruin a man's face and claim himself to be champion of a weight class that does not exist. 175 pounds. Shout out to Paul Daly. We're going to make our picks for this triple title fight card this weekend, where there's going to be 15,000 people in the Jacksonville ViStar Memorial Coliseum Arena, and we're always going to hope for the best at that point.
All fully vaccinated, I'm sure.
We're just going to hope for the best, man. That's where I'm at. Just hope for the best for these people, man, and hope that the fighters had the good sense to get vaccinated themselves before they enter this fucking lion's den. In more way than one, lion's den. All right, Triller Fight Club. Yeah, anybody listening to this podcast know Ben Askren got knocked out with one punch, like 2 minutes into the fight. Then people thought it was rigged, not rigged.
Wait. Before we go into what happened, can we also mention when you knew that Ben Askren absolutely was doomed? Bruce Buffer called this man Funky Ben Askew.
Yeah.
He did not know this man's name.
This is unprofessional.
Michael Buffer, by the way. Bruce Buffer.
Michael Buffer. Sorry. Michael Buffer, who is actually the more well-known of the Buffer brothers.
Yeah.
In fairness to Mikey, he probably saw Ben Askren's nipples and thought, these look askew.
Mike really
Little
got a
Freudian slip.
Exactly. There's also a moment where Ben Askren realizes that his name was said incorrectly.
Yeah,
There's like
Jesus.
he's just like,
He's confused. He's like, he's not going to correct that, huh? I'm the main event here.
So
he's not going to correct.
I'm just going to say some of the highlights of the non-fighting part of this card. Pete Davidson inviting multiple people to have sex with his mom within the first 10 minutes of the broadcast. Every musical performance being about 20 minutes, like playing like a set, basically. Mike, you wanted to say something before?
You are forgetting the literal first line of the broadcast.
Oh, please tell us.
From one Snoop Dogg, where the first words out of the commentary team are, "Oh, you want me to cue this motherfucker up?"
We had Pete Davidson backstage with the Paul kid and his crew. We had Ben Askren and Pete Davidson having a serious conversation about why Jake Paul is human scum.
You've mentioned him 4 times without saying what his thing was the whole night. Pete Davidson, the constant whole night, his whole shtick was Jake Paul is a piece of shit, and who the hell is Ben Askren?
Yeah.
He buried this card the whole fucking night. Like, why am I here? Why did they give me money? Who are these nobodies? This guy's an asshole. What am I doing here?
I think he literally said, they both suck, but at least someone's going to get hurt. And I was like, fuck, he really crystallized while we're all here. I have a general positive opinion of Pete Davidson overall. I don't know the ins and outs of the man's life. I'm going to find out something, I'm sure, at the end of this podcast by Googling him. It's going to make me not like him. I generally find him entertaining on SNL. That's what I'm basing this off of, folks. But he was all, and then it was a point where Ric Flair was judging a slap fight between 2 fat guys, which kept going. Kept going for a while. There was a performance by my guy Too Short. Oh no, sorry, the E40 one was where the young lady appeared to be wearing entirely fishnet. There was Ben Askren lamenting that none of this was a good influence for the children of his wrestling team who were watching this. The Black Key.
I mean, they all got to watch boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya
smoke
weed for the first time in his life.
No,
that's what that was.
Oscar De La Hoya was coked out of his fucking mind, bro. Okay,
a little bit of all.
Man.
Oscar De La Hoya failed to say say USA correct once. He kept calling it the USSA. And they never pulled him from this broadcast. It was Frank Mir fought for 6 full rounds, and Oscar De La Hoya was high as balls.
He also thought that Frank Mir was from not Russia, even. He thought Frank Mir was from the Soviet Union.
Yes, there's that. Shout out to Frank Mir coming out of this thing looking better than anybody we've mentioned so far. Just existing, being 275 pounds a man, tired in the ring.
Can I ask Mike a question? Because you're the only one on this podcast that potentially knows who the hell this man. Who was the fat obese guy wearing a shit ton of makeup named Crime Faces?
Oh, that was our question.
Fucking idea.
Yeah, there was a commentator just named Crime Face.
Although,
he's plural.
As I mentioned to Bobby on the broadcast, didn't like him. Why specifically? And I quote, "He's giving off real Eddie Kingston vibes to me. I don't like it."
That's harsh. It's harsh for my guy Eddie Kingston. And then, by the way, for people questioning the legitimacy of this fight, Snoop Dogg, part investor in this company, the second Askren goes down, is yelling, "Where my $2 million at, motherfucker?" Because apparently he bet $2 million with somebody, possibly Dana White. But Dana White was just like, yeah, I didn't bet Snoop Dogg. Why would I bet Snoop Dogg? Ben's an underdog. If I would bet with anybody, I would bet at the casino. Dana White, a true gambling, by the way, degenerate, is like, I'm not taking an even money bet with Snoop Dogg. Anyway, there's a lot going on. They say they did 1.4 million buys. Nobody believes them. But people seem to believe they sold over 1 million pay-per-views, which I don't know if it was $40 a pop or $50 a pop. Does anybody know the answer to that?
It was 50.
50.
Normally you split that with your pay-per-view provider. One of their pay-per-view providers, though, they bought. The main one, Fight TV, which I think was the smartest thing Triller did all weekend, to be honest, was buy Fight TV. I think it was very smart of them. I was just trying to run numbers in my head with I'm like, okay, Bieber's not showing up for less than $250,000 minimum. Like, you ain't getting Ice Cube to actually perform on TV at this point for less than like $100,000 minimum. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you're paying like all these people way too much for this to make a lot of money.
Look, Bobby, 2020 was a lean year for the music industry. No one was touring. Ain't no concerts held. People getting their sets in, Bobby. People are letting you know. Bieber dropped a new single. That was a new song. That Peaches song, it's on the radio right now, Bobby. It's promotion.
Yeah. I did like the part where all the rappers that I like, that were in their 40s, sat on chairs because they were tired and rapped. That was my favorite part of that part. I think people had this like impression. I like the MMA community when they get into a card like this. They're always just like, they've decided they're better than this. But then every single fucking one of them watched it. And then, it was fine, Mike. It is what it is, man. These people were like, I'll say this: in a world that the UFC just pumps out fight card after card of like 12 fights, 11 of them not mattering, with everybody dressed exactly the same. These Triller motherfuckers were like, we're gonna put on a concert, we're gonna put on a slap fight. There's gonna be naked girls dancing. There's gonna be questionable boxing. There's gonna be one real fight, maybe, where a guy takes a dive though for a nut shot. They were literally like, we're going to do whatever we can because you paid us money. We're going to entertain you. It was what it was, man.
First of all, Doja Cat, goddamn. And secondly, I'm not going to speak too much about Triller because, in all honesty, I feel we need to cede as much of the floor for this topic to Steph as possible because he was the standard bearer for this shit for at least the last month. All right. If there was one person waving the flag for Triller on this podcast, it was Steph by a country mile. The one thing I'll say is that people that were so indignant about, oh my God, I spent $50 for a concert. Bitch, what the fuck did you think you were getting into with this card? All right. You saw what was going on. You could see what the fight card is. Like, you knew you weren't getting quality with this shit. Come on. You were in it for the spectacle.
Yeah. Stefan. Beyond this being the future of boxing, seriously, what was your impression of this whole event?
I mean, there was a lot of train wreck quality to it, but I agree with Mike 100% because a lot of terms of like, I don't listen to too much. I'm not too much on Twitter, seeing what people are saying, but I was seeing what people are saying about this. And the amount of people who are like, what is this? That's just, you're dumb. Like, everyone knew what this was, but that's what I want to actually talk about the fighting about it. Because Problem Child, he lived up to his promise because I have a new dream boxing match. His promise was he's going to make Ben Askren look like the worst fighter in the history of MMA. And with that title, my dream boxing match is now Ben Askren versus CM Punk. I would like to know who's got worse striking. That is a fair striking match. But in terms of, I was on board with it. Jake Paul, I picked him to win because there's some athletic talent to the kid. He may be a complete knucklehead jackass, but clearly you saw he has some capability. The problem is no one's going to give him respect as a boxer until he fights someone who's a boxer. Because that's the one thing that is it now 3-0 or 4-0 now? Was it 3-0 going into it or it's 3-0 total?
This is 3 now. Who was the first one? Who was his first win?
Some other YouTuber was his first win. Then Nate Robinson, he blasted him to the Shadow Realm. And then this past Saturday.
Okay.
And his brother is 0-2 to KSI. Okay. I got that mixed up about who fought who.
Oh, he fought KSI's brother. That was not the gimmick? Didn't he fight KSI? Wasn't that his win then? Didn't he fight KSI? Wasn't it brother versus brother? Wasn't that the gimmick first time? I could be making this up.
Could be. It was a YouTuber. That sounds right. It was what you thought it would be, and I'm shocked by anyone who thought it was anything otherwise. But yeah, it was a entertaining, chaotic freak show to me. I had fun with it. It was just embarrassing. It was about as anticlimactic as an ending as you could have got. Because if you didn't see it, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't pulled up a GIF yet, Askren gets knocked down by a big looks like a straight right, overhand right. Tough to say. Not a lot of technical skill from the Paul brothers. But he gets up at 4. And the ref really just doesn't want to let him go.
Well, he did. The referee told him to walk towards him, and Ben, not being a normal boxer, walked towards Paul instead. I thought, like, he wasn't walking. He didn't follow the instructions, which was
he had his hands up. You can say he looked glazed. I saw 2 refs made comments on it. Goddard said it was a good stoppage. That hey, the ref made a determination. But I also kind of agree with what McCarthy said. It was a small referee making a small time decision. You know, this was the main event. People sat through hours to get to here, and you're going to be, you know, we've seen, right, in UFC main events where veteran referees give a little bit more leeway to the main event, right? They don't want to do an early stoppage because they know these are the names, these are the marquee guys. I had no idea who this white hair old man. When you said Ric Flair was judging Bobby, at first I thought, is that the nickname everyone gave this old man referee? Because I wasn't in front of my TV at the moment. I'm like, oh, it actually is in fact Ric Flair. But yeah, I don't know who this guy was, you know. So it's one of those. It was a freak show, but for as excited, I do wish we got something a little bit more definitive out of it. Just because I'm curious. There is a curiosity element. I wanted to see what fat Ben Askren was going to do. You saw he tried to clinch a couple times. You could tell that he probably did have a strategy of let's tire this guy out, let's survive. I have a tough chin. And you saw this guy was just throwing big heaters. There were no combinations. I perfectly have no problem believing Jake Paul has power. He has knockout power. That's undeniable. Its proof is there. But does he have technical boxing? No. Because you saw him throwing very rudimentary jab, big punch, big swing punch.
He fights like a guy with 3 fights, right? Like, that's how he fights. Marcus, you, unlike the rest of us, have the love of a good woman. Did you spend your Saturday night watching this or no?
I only watched the fight, and honestly, I don't know how you guys could watch any more than that. That was I can't sit here in good consciousness when every week I'm extremely critical, and I know we're dealing with a completely different realm of professionalism, but I'm out here being critical on analysis that DC and Bisping is giving, and if I don't come out here and say, honestly, you could have clipped this into Idiocracy, and I'd be like, oh, this is a clip from Idiocracy. This is a future where the lowest common denominator rules all, because that commentary was despicable. That was fucking... Honestly, after watching that, I was like, you have to pay me to watch this shit. You should be paying me, because this is... I don't even know what the right word for it. Like, it was atrocious that this is something that people paid for. Like, good God, refunds should be handed out. Not because the fight ended shortly, because like it's a Billy Madison motherfucker here. We all got dumber watching that shit, and I watched less than 2 minutes of it, and I'm like, God, this is. At one point, the commentator said, I hope they start kissing each other. That's some bullshit I heard in the dorms when I was watching Pride. Like, oh, look at these guys hugging up on each other.
Sounds like that was Crying Face who probably said that.
Yeah, that was a Crying Face.
It was I thought that was Pete Davidson, because Pete Davidson made
Marcus,
those type of humor.
I'll be honest, there was a moment where I was watching this and I was just like, this is like one step away from Ow My Balls. You know, that fake show on Idiocracy. I literally thought that moment.
It was literally...
It was the lowest common denominator. There's nothing... I mean...
I would say lower than that.
It was not... Look, it was literally car crash TV. That's what they're selling. And then, like... Yeah. And I know I'm about to say something here that's going to make us all sad. But then, like, I mean... I saw the number of MMA fighters saying they said they were willing to tune this kid up. I saw Bobby Knuckles say, I'll box that kid. I'll do it for less than $500,000. And I'm like, good. Way to say you'll do it for less than the other MMA fighter who got paid. This, honestly, the whole card made me sad about how little MMA fighters make money. How much little money they make. Because... I mean,
it also made me, like, because in some weird reality, like what Steph was saying for the weeks prior leading up to this, is a really sad potential reality of like, this is potentially the way boxing's going. This made me feel bad for boxing. When you have Jake Paul coming out in a fucking knockoff Fox Sports robot, I'm like,
we didn't even get to the robot.
What is this shit? Like you have all this money, but you go Peter Pan on the knockoff robot who, like, it's just like, oh man.
No, you missed the part where Pete Davidson asked him, who's in the robot suit? And then Jake Paul said, nah, it's a robot. Like, he was trying to say it was a real robot.
This event really was, it is what it is. It is like a bunch of people with a bunch of money being like, okay, we're gonna have like we're going to throw everything cool at this. It is just going to be like millennial focused headshot here. And it's just like, man, like if this is what the next generation finds entertaining and finds valuable and worth their time and money, it's like, we doomed, son.
Do you know what it
our
was?
Planet, our society of humans is doomed. If this is the profit we are getting, if this is what people come for entertainment, and we'll smack down 50 hard ass earned dollars. People like, I follow the video game industry very closely, right? And people complain about their dollar and how much hours of entertainment they need. And if you're gonna throw down $50 for 4 hours of fucking bullshit, and this is like acceptable and okay, and we're gonna keep coming back to this, it's like, man, I weep for human society. I mean, we're fucked on many levels, but just in this sense, our entertainment being at where it's at and what we're paying, if that's what we're at, like, we fucked.
You know what's interesting?
Done.
I know so many people who watch this. I don't know one person who paid money for it.
But even to me, it's like I all I wanted to watch was the fight, and that's all I did. And for the UFC, I'm the same way. I just want to watch the fights. Even watching the fight, I was like, I really wish I didn't listen to it.
You know what it is? I mean, I'm trying to put aside for a moment the actual like embarrassing sports element of it, or like what it looks like for combat sports. I was telling Mike before we started, it's an interesting thing where like you have this whole generation of like entertainers, is what these kids are, right? These YouTube kids,
Sure.
Where they made their audience on some other platform, and like normally what we get in fighting is that a guy has a bunch of fights, and then because of his fights, we learn about him or whatever, it's within the fighting realm, his post fights, whatever. And then because of that, he becomes interesting for us to watch him in fighting, with the way Conor McGregor came up, right? Conor McGregor knocked a bunch of dudes out. Conor McGregor gave funny post-fight interviews. Conor McGregor did it within the realm of that. We had the opposite happen with this whole thing, which is literally like these people follow these kids, right? They got like 20 million YouTube subscribers or whatever it is, something like that, whatever number it is. And because they have like they find him interesting, right? They now follow him to the other thing he does. Like, I wonder if this dude decided he was going to do something that is in combat sports, but like some other avenue, like where you could have got people to pay for it.
Cornhole
like,
or some
whatever.
shit.
It's like whatever, like some other, like literally you're not following the sport, you're following the person at that point.
Sure.
It's like, I mean, I just found it kind of interesting. And I was sitting there like wondering who he's going to fight next as I read that BJ Penn wants to fight him and Tyron Woodley wants to fight Oscar De La Hoya, which shout out to Tyron. Saw a man with a drug problem on the air. Tyron's like, I can knock his ass out. And in my head, I'm just like, they're going to try to, Dylan Dennis is going to want to do this. And I'm just wondering who they commit, if it's going to be, is it going to be a boxer next, or is which MMA fighter? Is like,
no, it won't be a boxer. It will never be a boxer. There's no point for him in fighting.
There's no boxer that is famous enough and low level enough for this to work together.
But I mean, so, me completely, and I have to, like, I can't come on here and we're all tiptoeing and be like, oh, it's crazy. Like, I have to come out and this is bullshit. Like, I have to say first.
I mean, from an athletic,
because we're tipping toe around it. Like, oh, it was a joke.
Well,
it's fun. But like,
it wasn't a real athletic contest.
It was. I mean, I called it a freak show last time, and that's like, you know what? I'm sorry, freaks. You put on a better show than these people. At least I know what the bearded lady. Like, I can talk. There's some intellect I can gain from that. There was nothing to gain from this event. But what I will say, that the thing that's getting overshadowed is like in stuff that even the last fight, I can see Jake Paul. He's a credible fighter. I'm not saying he's like world class or anything, but he's obviously a person that is dedicated to the sport, and has shown marked improvement over his fights. And if this is, I think you don't need all the theatrics around it, because I think him fighting MMA fighters is intriguing enough, and I think he's good enough that I think it's really interesting leading up to this fight how many people. Don't want to throw you guys under the bus, but it's kind of silly, and not even Mike and Bobby here, like legitimate people. Chael Sonnen, I watched 7 videos of Chael leading up to this fight talking about how Ben's going to win this fight. It's a competition, and it's just like, I have a hard time. How did so many people get disillusioned that Ben Askren was going to win this fight with the Homer Simpson strategy of like, he's just going to be able to take the shots? It was just kind of mind-boggling to me. But I think if you match up the one after this fight, thinking about who could he fight realistically next, that I think would actually be potentially competitive and would actually give him a run for his money, it has to be like you said, Bob. It a mixed martial artist that I think is retired. I don't think it's going to be an active fighter. And the one guy that comes to mind that made sense to me was Bisping. Like, I think him and Bisping, and he has to fight. He has to fight someone close to his fucking weight class. He's calling out McGregor and Dylan Dennis, who fight at like 55.
You thought Bisping? Honestly,
Bisping literally has one eye.
Okay, first does that
That's
too.
true.
Oh no, there's no way they license that. Mark, I thought you were about to say the same name I'm thinking, and I thought you were going to say Nick Diaz.
Nick, I mean,
the one part of me does think that Nick thinks Nick is a real martial artist, and he
makes more sense because he's not really contractually obligated.
No, they're both under contract still. I think Nick's just not fighting. Well, I don't know how long these UFC jail sentences are, but here's the thing: Nick and Nate both view themselves as actual martial artists, though. So I'm not sure they might be above this on some level. If Connor, how many more fights does Connor have to lose to go knock this kid out? Honest question. 2 more? Would they do it?
Honestly, Bob, and I don't mean to like boast this dude's ego because that's all this whole thing was. Like, I literally think Jake Paul is a pretty decent boxer. Like, what I saw, it was more than rudimentary. It was rudimentary because he didn't have to do a ton. Once he threw a combination, it was more than one punch at a time. He knocked him on his ass. Like, I'm intrigued by this kid, and I think him fighting an actual striker is compelling. I do want him to fight someone that's close to his weight class. Like,
Bisping would be fun if Bisping had 2 eyes.
Bisping wants to do it, and yeah, maybe
they're not going to license. They're not going to license a motherfucker with a glass eye. Like, it's not going to work. Does he?
So he did the glass eye out.
I mean, I'm still picking Bisping with one eye. Bisping won the middleweight title with one eye. Okay, we've given this a lot of attention. I did. The one thing that made me laugh is someone said we needed a time machine to undo the Mighty Mouse versus Ben Askren trade because nothing good has come from it. And I'm like, yeah. But Jorge Masvidal getting a platform ended up being terrible for everybody.
That's true.
Okay. Bobby Knuckles, Kelvin Gastelum. Did anybody watch this besides me?
I did.
Marcus, that was a beautiful performance by Robert Whittaker.
Yeah.
I was very impressed and still came out of it thinking 2 things. He's the number 1 contender, obviously. And 2, I still don't think I'm picking him against Israel Adesanya. But what did you think of the fight against Gastelum?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the fight was standing, where he was able to pick him apart by using, great footwork and distancing, a variety of strikes where, Gastelum was really focused on the hands. But I think really the biggest caveat for me, which was like really made this fight a little bit more compelling, was he got multiple takedowns on Calvin. And I think one time he was able to hold him down for a decent amount, but like, he really showed a well-roundedness that we haven't seen. I mean, we know he likes to throw. We know he throws high kicks. He throws, he has a lot of tools in the stand-up, and he's good at gauging distance, but he showed marked improvement in that. And I really liked, in these few instances where like Gastelum came in, he got in close, he got double underhooks, took him right down without hesitation. And that was the part where I was like, okay, if he can blend that into a fight with Izzy, and not just threaten with strikes, but also threaten with takedowns, that makes it a more compelling fight. And at this point, I agree with you about it's one of those things, like he got beat so handily that first fight. A rematch is not.
Well, yeah, this was also not just like, I mean, I love Bobby Knuckles. I think I might have picked him to win the fight. Probably. I picked him all the time. But I mean, against Izzy the first time. But I think there's an impression also because Izzy got taken down by Jan so frequently, right? Jan is like 50 pounds heavier than Robert Whittaker. And the problem Rob Whittaker had, which didn't get solved in this fight with Izzy, was that Izzy is so long, Bobby Knuckles couldn't get inside. And Kelvin Gastelum's like as tall as like Steph. He's like 5'8", right? Straight up, isn't he?
Something,
and like
sure.
Izzy's 6'2". Like this wasn't exactly a fair, like, I don't think I solved that issue with me in my head of like, how is he going to get inside? Like, that was the thing. I mean, he showed well-roundedness, but how is he going to get inside? Because last time the strategy was jump into it, and Izzy fucked him up.
Yeah. I think really the strategy to beat Izzy is don't attack the head so much. He's really, and if you do, you have to step in deep, and he allows you to do that in the first round. Before he's able to gauge distance and timing, guys can get in. That's why Gastelum did so well. Like Gastelum, when he strikes, he has to get in the pocket. Like, so he has to get there. He cannot wing punches from the outside. So when you can get in on Izzy, and he lets you in, like once he starts gauging the timing and you have to get through the jab to get in, it becomes more difficult, but he'll let guys in the pocket. He has really good head movement and leans back and moves back. But if you get in tight enough, you can only lean back so far. But I think to counteract that, Bob, is you go to the body doesn't move. I think you got to work the body to lower the hands, to lower the head movement, to recondition what attacks he's going to be getting hit. And when you're attacking, I think, throwing punches and getting shots, mixing your punches and your shots as a way to at least get him thinking about having to negate takedowns, having to put those hands downs to get underhooks, to defend takedowns where you can potentially, there's a lot of strategies to try to beat Izzy. I think, Jan was able to do some things very well, but he was a lot bigger, a lot stronger. But yeah, look, it's not a fight that I'm super clamoring for, but it makes the most sense. Robert lost that fight and has beaten everyone that has come his way. So it's kind of like, we kind of have to give it. He's earned this shot. And I think he showed enough improvement in this fight where it's like, okay, I'm kind of interested. Like I said, I don't like rematches when they've kind of been like, they're super one-sided. But if you get enough fights in between and can start changing that narrative a little bit, I get reinterested. And I think he's changed the narrative enough. He beat Cannonier, Till, and Gastelum. And, they weren't the most, he didn't put a stamp on a lot of them. But he looked good in this fight. He looked good enough to where I'm like, okay, I think he might be able to bring something different to Izzy. Not enough that I'm going to pick him to beat Izzy, but I'm intrigued more. So there's that. You muted.
Sorry. Steph, remember when we were deciding what the other fight was we were going to pick? And we went with the Jeremy Stevens close fight.
Fight got wrapped up real early.
Yo, Jeremy Stevens shoved the man for no reason.
Did he get fined or anything?
This
he
is
should.
I was going to make the argument. I think.
Well, let's say what happened first. He shoved the man so hard, the man got whiplash and a concussion. And yeah, no fight. Stefan, go ahead.
I want to say, along with my 10-point modifier for the Jake Paul pick, I also feel like I get credit for the closer fight because I don't know if you saw in Bloody Elbow today, one of their editors made a very compelling case why Closa could sue Stevens for assault and loss of wages because this was outside of a fight that this occurred, and it resulted in a significant loss of income as a result of Stevens' actions. Stevens wanted to be a tough guy. And we've seen this type of thing. This is a real freak accident, right?
It's actually a textbook assault.
It's there you go. From the legalese guys themselves. What can you say about Stevens? He's a knucklehead here. Like, you don't need to do that shit. I know a lot of fighters like to do that shit for posturing, but
maybe his hands were behind his back. First of all, one of them was wearing a mask, and it wasn't Stevens, too. I don't know what we're doing at that point, to be honest. Yeah, man, that was it. I saw, by the way, that Andrei Arlovsky, he set some record for the number of straight fights being an underdog in the UFC. It was some absurd number. It was like 11 or something, which is saying something. Yeah. I don't know anything else notable that came out of this card, if I'm being honest.
Penne won a fight after
Andre won, by the way.
Years of inactivity or something, some long length of time, because they listed her in very rare company of people who had as long of a layoff.
USADA fucked her.
The victory.
USADA fucked her. Is what happened with that one. Yeah, she had some long layoff. Oh, and Luis Pena. There was a lot of decisions on this card too.
Wait. I didn't know Luis Pena was that fluent at English. Call me xenophobic or something. Just like when he hit up, he had one of those unexpected American accents that I just did not see coming.
Is he from the States?
He might be. Let's see. He's from Italy. He lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. You gotta learn English.
Okay, that's where that American accent. I couldn't quite geographically place it, but it threw me off.
I remember. I was always thinking of this. Is the guy's name was Junior Asunsao? This was at least 10 years ago. WEC existed still, and I'm watching a card at Stefan's his mom's house at the time. I remember. And you're like looking down, and post-fight, Junior Asunsao starts talking, and he just sounds American. And Stefan looked up and thought I changed the channel. He's like, wait.
I still hear his voice in my head, Bobby. This man was from like Curitiba, Brazil. And he's like, well, Joe, I came in with a good strategy tonight. It was like kind of a nasally, weaselly voice. And I'm like, whoa,
just to let you guys know how all over the place Luis Pena is. He was born to parents in the Navy, stationed in Naples, but was adopted at a young age by a Latin American couple. And he grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas.
All right, there you go.
Globalism, baby.
That's right. UFC's back this weekend. We'll talk about that card in a minute with the 3 title fights. First, though, we all picked these we're nailing this Bellator tourney, boys. We're right on top of these picks so far.
Going with the favorite seems to work.
Yeah, the Nemkov decision, it was not that close based on anywhere I've read.
Did you see it?
I was looking at the highlights and they gave a 4. I think, was it a split flat out or no, it was 48-47, I think. I don't think it was a split, but
I saw like the first 2 rounds and the champion won them. I can't remember his name. I don't have it in front of me.
Vadim
But I did hear like Phil Davis came on in like the 4th and 5th and probably won those rounds.
Well, they gave him the 4th and the 5th. No scorecard from the media member I saw gave Phil more than 1 round. Corey Anderson got a finish.
Good. Nice.
Everybody's pretty excited to not having to remember homeboy's name. Or spell it
True.
ever again.
We all dodged a bullet.
For a while. We all dodged a bullet there.
I mean, Stefan nailed it last week.
Yeah, we're going to assume that because none of us watched the broadcast to know
True.
how it was correctly said. And then nice win by Julia Budd, but I saw Saba Hamasi, who was in the UFC if I'm not mistaken. Him and Paul Daly had a wild one. Paul Daly got a knockout. Was 175 pounds. Don't know why. Paul Daly say he runs shit at this weight and he wants to continue. He pretty much declared himself champion at 175 pounds.
Just for the job you want, right?
I like Bellator, man. Let's just do stuff the UFC's not doing. We're gonna have tournaments. Maybe we'll make up a new weight class. Let's fucking go for it. Bellator. I thought maybe Romero and Rumble was this weekend. They're not.
No.
They're no card until May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that one. That one I will try to watch. Try to get a Showtime trial or something. See what we can do. One championship happened. I think Christian Lee won. It sounds like Eddie Alvarez is going to get another fight against one of 2 people. It says or on the fight card. He's fighting this guy or that guy on April 28th. Which, as Mark put
I want it to be a mystery that when the music kicks, you don't know who's walking out, and then one of the 2 does.
That was an old Sakuraba bit. They used to all wear masks. There's 3 of them. Which one's Sakuraba? You don't know until you unmask them. Oh, you're fighting this one. Okay.
I know, Mark. The one with all the tape on their body.
Well, that's true.
One who's being held together by 5 rolls of tape.
Okay. What else did I say? There was any news actually? I think that happened this week. Oh, PFL is happening. Might as well mention it. Okay. I mean, as I mentioned with One Man, we just want these MMA organizations to give people a viable place to work so they don't have to go box at age 40 years old in Triller. But PFL is spending money, man. I don't know who's paying for this thing, but they got Rory over there. They got Anthony Pettis is fighting this weekend against Clay Collard, his former UFC vet also. I think Clay Collard might be mixing him up with somebody else, but I think I saw Clay Collard and Nate Diaz almost getting a fist fight in the Stockton Arena at the War MMA event. That might have been him. Was it him or another guy named Clay? Marcin Held is on this card, which I believe Marcin was the Bellator champion at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure. He was definitely.
Yeah, it was 150. He was in the mix. Marcin is a good fighter. Bubba Jenkins on there. Lance Palmer, former 145 champion. Lance Palmer's a guy I keep waiting to get to the UFC.
Wow, Bubba Jenkins is a name. That's a name I haven't heard in a while, too. That's a guy one of those NCAA champions who didn't quite pan out the way we hoped.
Yeah, Lance Palmer's the guy. Is the guy literally that I kept waiting for the UFC to get because I was he was kicking ass in World Series of Fighting, and he's a alpha male guy. He was one of the guys Uriah would always talk about whenever he lost a title fight. We got Lance Palmer, we got this guy, we got fucking Andre Feely for some reason. I thought Lance Palmer was going to make it eventually. He might just be comfortable in this league. Because he has a pretty good record, too, I think. But this is on ESPN, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So if it's 23rd is Friday, if I'm not mistaken. You guys help me out? Yes. Yes, it's Friday. So on Friday night, Showtime Pettis is going to fight Clay Collard. Showtime's a minus 600 favorite, which is a bold claim. Anthony Pettis against anybody in 2021. Bold. Real bold. Don't really see any other news that happened this week. John Jones still doesn't have a fight. So that may or may not be happening.
No news is good news.
No news is no good. Let's get into it. UFC 261, coming to you from the Jacks. I haven't been able to say a different place besides Fight Island or Apex in like a year, guys. Coming to you from the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, 15,000 Floridians strong. Hopefully wearing masks, but you know what? I watched WrestleMania, and a lot of people weren't wearing masks in that crowd. And they were outdoors and spaced out, so I am not confident about this event, folks. We got 3 title fights. We got Jorge Masvidal and Usman both fighting in their home states here. We got the most dominant women's champion, not named Amanda Nunes, fighting. We got, between these 6 we actually have 5 champions among these 6 guys, and if you can make it 6 if you count the BMF title.
And we also got no chance in hell Michael stays up for this whole fucking thing.
Mike's hope really has got to be, this is what I think is going to happen with Mike. Valentina and Jessica ends in a finish, hopefully. Whaley and Rose have a fucking banger, which I think where most of us are expecting some level of banger in this, you know. On a scale of 1 to 10, the banger card, I think we're expecting a 7 at least on the banger scale. Then Mike's going to sleep. Because we all saw Usman versus Masvidal 1, and it might happen the same way all over again. We also got a rematch of a Ring of Combat fight from like 10 years ago happening. And we got the UFC serving up a man, a former title contender, to a young 25-year-old. Let's get into it. Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal. We're going to do it again, brother. These guys fought last, was it October, if I'm not mistaken?
Somewhere around there.
It was fall, if I'm not crazy.
Was it? I thought it was in like July, wasn't it?
Has it really been?
Yeah.
Oh, she did
July
fight Burns
12th.
too, yeah.
That's true. He's fought Burns. Masvidal's fought nobody. Masvidal's earned 2 title fights, somehow. Fighting Nate Diaz. Of course Nate Diaz thinks he's a champion. Guy's getting title fights after beating him. The first one, Masvidal took the fight on, was 10 days notice?
I think it was
some
6.
shit like that? 6 days notice? This is back when we were all giving Masvidal a lot of credit still. And we were all happy that he was getting paid and all this stuff. And, you know, props to him, though. Took a fight on 6 days notice. Got wrestled for 25 minutes. Wasn't close. Wasn't even a little bit close. Not the most thrilling fight, but wasn't close on any level. Since that time, Usman fucked up his friend, Gilbert Burns. Masvidal has done everything he can to ruin any goodwill he established in the year leading up to in the moments leading up to that fight. Betting odds for this one, Stefan.
Usman, big favorite, -410, +330 Masvidal.
Look, nothing has changed for me. I recognize that Jorge Masvidal has got power and plenty of it, and everybody's beatable. Usman's real good. Usman is really, really good. And he looks like everything's hitting on all cylinders for him right now. And I think he's going to take 25 minutes. Sadly. Because Jorge's not an easy guy to finish. So I think it's going to take 25 minutes, but I think it's going to be very one-sided. I got Usman. Who do you got, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I have Usman too. It's tough to think anything different will happen in this fight. I mean, I do think Usman has shown marked improvement in his fight with Burns. I mean, his stand-up looked a lot better. I mean, and it's not like it's exactly what you would want a really high caliber wrestler to kind of pick up on the stand-up. Is just like simple 1-2. Like, let's not get crazy. Let's not throw hooks and do spinning shit. Like, let's stick to the fundamentals and just drill that. And that's what he did with Burns. He drilled those punches and he got a stoppage. I think, you know, the easy pick, the most likely pick is just the same result. Unanimous decision for Usman. I think if for himself personally, if he could stop Jorge Masvidal, because I wanted to look up like how many times has Jorge been stopped, because I know he does not get stopped often. It's been 3 times in his entire career, basically over 50 fights, and he's been stopped 3 times, only 1 time by knockout, 2 times by submission. He loses mostly by decision. So I think that's probably the most likely outcome. If Usman is able to stop Jorge, I will be very impressed. And if Jorge can finish Usman, I'd also be very impressed. But I find that to be somewhat unlikely. Jorge saying, he only had 6 days, fair enough. It's hard to get in weight that quickly. So I'm sure that took a lot on him, but it's just skill wise. I don't think he's made those adjustments to stop Usman from, if things go bad for Usman and the stand up is not going well for him, to lean back on the wrestling, on the clinch, on the takedown, and I was watching the countdown, and I don't want to read too much into what they say, but he was basically saying like, oh, I lost that fight because he was stomping on my feet and I didn't practice tap dancing enough. And it's like, okay, dude, like you lost that fight because he controlled you against the cage. Like I know this is all antics and show, but like hopefully what he's been working on is just like, okay, I can't get muscled against the cage. I gotta get underhooks and flip it around and get back in free space. But I feel like he just thinks like I just need more preparation. I think that's not going to be enough.
I mean, Jorge Masvidal is always. You never say he's unprepared for a fight. I mean, for as much as Jorge Masvidal's let us down in the last year, he's a smart fighter, and it's hard to look good beating him, quite frankly. Mike, you got Usman, or you think we're going to get a different result here?
No, we're not getting a different result in this one. It's going to be Usman again. Well, I think it's going to be a closer fight. Having a few months to prepare is vastly different than just 6 days, how Masvidal had before. But Usman just has it going in every which way over the last few years. He's hit that prime that you see a few UFC champions hit, where for a while they're just untouchable. And while Masvidal has made strides over the last few years, he's not on Usman's level.
Steph, another man who only had 6 days to prepare for his opponent that time, was Usman. He thought he was fighting a jiu-jitsu specialist. Worth mentioning. Got a totally different opponent for him, too. Anyway, we're getting a clean sweep? Or
clean sweep. He's world-class because of his jab, as Trevor Whitman said. Yeah, we were talking about in that last fight, whether you think Whitaker has a shot in the rematch against Izzy is irrelevant to the fact that he earned his rematch. Masvidal 100% did not. It's a weird fight.
Real weird.
Go through this again.
Real weird. All right, co-main event. Normally you don't see it like this because Valentina actually is a higher weight class, but we all recognize what's happening there in that fight. It's the women's strawweight championship of the world, 115 pounds. Weili Zhang defending her championship for the first time in a year. She hasn't fought since March 7th, 2020. One of the last, I think that was the last pay-per-view with fans, actually. I think. It has to be, you'd hope. Against Rose Namajunas. Rose has not fought since probably a similar amount of time. July 2020. Winning a split over Jessica Andrade. Betting odds for this one, Stefan?
It will be the closest of the three title fights we're picking. Weili is coming in at the slight favorite at minus 190 to Rose's plus 165.
Who do you got?
I hate to say it like this, but I got communism. I think there's just more power there. I think Weili's going to reign for a little bit. I think she's really coming to her own. She, was really well touted entering the UFC, and I wasn't super familiar. But then I remember the first time we ever picked her fight, I'm like, go look at this, go look at her highlight video. Like, she's got violence. She has power, because not a lot of women, particularly in this weight class, carry that kind of power. Like, you saw what she did, to Joanna's face, right? That kind of turned into a legend. And what that fight also showed is she is tough and durable as hell, And at some point in this fight, Rose is going to reach for her back hip. There will be no gun there, which is what she's been training with for this fight. And then it's like, oh, shoot, how do I counter? What is the long form saying is Rose is in a massive decline for me. She is heading down a weird PragerU-like path in her life, and I feel like it's just going to get weirder and darker for her. So Weili Zhang, and Weili, I bet she'll set the record straight. She will have a victory speech that will be much more gracious and less freedom versus communism bullshit. This is really me just venting about how much I'm turning on Rose, a fighter who I had really liked up to this point in her career, but I don't know what's going on with that lady lately.
Yeah, Weili's last victory speech was, "Don't worry about the coronavirus, we have it under control." That was the last one.
I would actually love if Weili just gave a stirring speech and gave all glory to Winnie the Pooh. I mean, to President Ping.
Yo, she just goes out there and says, yo, this is about the people, the People's Party, the Communist Party.
She's gonna do the reverse Rocky 4, and suddenly we're cheering her.
Yeah, I don't need either one of these people to give me their thoughts on the world. I don't need anybody on the card to give me their thoughts on the world. If anything the last year's taught me is I do not need to hear from any MMA fighter about anything that isn't fighting. I'm going to take Rose. I think it's going to be a really close fight, actually. And I think, and a little bit of money just came in on Whaley because it moved from 190 to 200. I am taking Rose because, barring a power bomb in a fight she was winning, she has not lost a fight in 5 years. And I know she has a weird record for someone who's as accomplished as she is. I think she's only 10-4. I think.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Which is, again, strange record for somebody as accomplished as she is. I think she's here's the thing. When I say she's a more well-rounded fighter, I have not seen the 7 submissions that Whaley has pulled off in her career. I saw the one she pulled off on Jessica Aguilar. That was pretty cool. Rose is a really complete fighter, and it looked like she was really in the zone when she was champion. And she was really beating up Jessica Andrade. She actually did better in the first fight, I thought, where she got powerbombed than in the second one. Whaley is tough as hell. That fight with Joanna impressed the hell out of me. She's battle-hardened. That was a fight that I came out of that one having more respect for everybody involved. I think this is going to be a close one. I wouldn't be surprised with either outcome. I'm leaning towards Rose just because I mean, there's been 3 takedowns shot on Whaley since she's been in the UFC. She gets on the ground somehow. I'm going to lean towards Rose. That's it. I could be wrong entirely, though. I got Rose, though. Mark?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, for me, this is the main event. This is the most compelling fight on the card by far. It should be the main event. I mean, I know they do this little like hierarchy of weight and stuff, but like this is really what.
The hierarchy now is what they think people are paying.
Yeah, that's true. And really, I was going to, if everyone was going Wei Ling, I was going to go Rose because I was kind of feeling Rose. But since you took it, Bob, I think that the safe money's on Wei Ling just because she is the champion. But like, it's a pick'em fight for me because Rose, and I agree with you, Bob. Like the 10-4 record is really a disservice to the quality of fighter that she's become. And I do think what you said is like the easiest, the most likely path of victory for her is to get Wei Ling on the ground. And because Rose is phenomenal when it comes to submissions. I mean, she's improved so much stand up that we forget, she really burst onto the scene because she did a flying armbar. That
was badass.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a great fight. Like you were saying, like this is really the fight that I think the whole card should have been built around. And it's tough to pick, but I'm going to go Wei Ling just because it feels safer to me. It feels like the more safe bet with Rose instead of going with Rose. But I'm kind of pulling for Rose. I love how much she's improved. I loved how much better she's gotten at stand up. But Wei Ling does remind me of like a small little like Vanderlei Silva. So it's gonna be a great fight. I'm looking forward to the fight more so than whatever outcome happens. I'm
best literally just penciling. I'm penciling in fight of the night right now for this. I'm very excited for that. That is the only. Not only is the most competitive of the 3 title fights, I am more excited for this than I am for anything on this card easily. Mike, is it a split or a 3-1?
Kids, some advice I've given to you before: never meet your heroes because they are bound to disappoint you. And in this case, what I mean by that is the more you learn about the people you like, or in this case, the more they talk, the more they are more likely to disappoint you. As I've been saying for years, Rose is my girl. I've loved Rose for years. And the stupid shit she has said over the last week has really tried that. It reminds me of Steph's former love for Michelle Watterson, if I'm right.
People need to stay in their lane, man.
Yeah.
Everybody stay in your lane.
With that, I'm still picking Rose. 1, because she's my girl, and 2, more importantly.
Wait. I just want to say, me and Mike picked together last week, and we saw a man get knocked out by a YouTube star in a minute and a half. Mm-hmm. We're really dooming Rose right now. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, we've seen this book at least on some level before from Rose fighting a very powerful striker in Jessica Andrade, and granted, she lost the first one when she got powerbombed, but she was winning both of those fights. She has a blueprint to beat someone like Wei Li, even though Wei Li is extremely powerful and she could be a great champ at this division. But I think Rose regains her title.
I can't emphasize enough how excited I am for this one. This is a fight I've been excited for when we thought it might happen for 6 months now, 7 months now. When we got the Dana White, Rose doesn't want the fight bullshit we had to deal with back in like December. And she's mourning her goddamn family at that time. Valentina Shevchenko, my favorite female fighter, who has not let me down yet. Because you know what? I know where she stands on shit. This girl's got gun tattoos. All right? She probably has opinions I don't agree with, but she keeps it to herself. She's just there to dance and fuck people up in the octagon.
Also speaks fluent Spanish.
Perfect all around. I think people are being a bit dismissive of Jessica Andrade's chances here. And I know I'm about to pick against Jessica Andrade too. But Jessica Andrade had a title reign where I don't think she got any respect for it, given how she won it and how quickly she lost it. And then she got this fight off of one win, which that's just where we're at, man, in this weight class, because Valentina's cleaned it out. She is on a different level than every one of these women. Valentina is waiting for Amanda either to give her a third crack at it or Amanda to retire so she can go back up to 135. Betting odds for this one are what, Steph?
Valentina minus 380 to Jessica's plus 315.
So Valentina has not had a betting line this close since she fought Joanna. It was like 5 fights ago when she was minus 300. So Andrade's getting a little bit of respect. Look, the fights aren't close, man. It's like we're at the point where Valentina's fights were, was it the last one where someone got a takedown or something? And we all got fucking psyched? Like, oh my God, she got taken down? Like, I'm not picking against Valentina Shevchenko to lose to any fight against anybody not named Amanda Nunes. And even then, it's going to be close. So, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the line says it all. Valentina is easily the favorite here. I mean, for me, I really just hope, and I think Jessica absolutely could bring out a more aggressive or more, effective Valentina.
She got to put her head in that girl's chest.
Right, because she's gonna come forward and be aggressive. And I think why I've been not as enamored by Valentina has nothing to do with like how good she is, because she's fantastic. It's just mostly, I think she plays it smart, and she does just enough to get the wins, to win the rounds, to score a clean strike instead of getting a finish. I think Jessica is going to bring an amount of strength and aggression that is going to make Valentina be a little bit more aggressive and have to take a little bit more chances. And I think for me and my criticism of Valentina is just that, like, she reminds me of DJ a lot. So the fights just aren't compelling.
Know what it is, Mark? She has the consistency of get a finish, get a decision, get a finish, get a decision. Last fight, decision. Andrade might be in trouble this weekend, is what it sounds like, if we're going to keep that pattern going.
Yeah, and it's just I think for me to kind of like become more of a fan of hers, which is like not, she doesn't give two shits if she gains me as a fan or not. She needs to get W's, and that's what she's extremely good at. But for me to get more clamored by her, I want to see her in more exciting fights. And I think Jessica could bring that out in her. So I'm going with Valentina, but I'm hoping it's more exciting than some of her previous fights where after the first round, it's kind of like, okay, I kind of know where this is going to go.
It's the most legitimate challenger. Well, even sad saying with one win, but like in terms of skill level, it's the most legitimate one.
Former champion, a lot of power.
Since Joanna,
be interesting.
Probably since Joanna, her most legit challenge. Mike?
Yeah, I think this is the most intriguing fight that Shevchenko has had in this division so far, mainly because Andrade has the ability to knock her out with one punch, or slam her and get her on the ground and really do some damage. With that said, I'm still picking Shevchenko.
Steph, Andrade moving up in this weight class did sacrifice the one thing she had at 115 over everybody. She's definitely stronger than everyone. Yeah, not so much the case now. What do you think?
That's an interesting caveat, because she's kind of short. She very much was a little muscle tank is what she was, and that's kind of what made her unique in the lower weight class. So I think that works against her too. In her Rose rematch, though, in a fight where I think we all largely wrote her off because thinking she won with that fluky powerbomb, was likely she actually fought a much better fight. Her boxing was improved, her gas tank was improved. So I think those things bode well with someone who clearly has a propensity to go the distance. I'm picking Valentina, but since it doesn't really matter, and it'll just be pride points if I'm accurate, I see Jessica taking 2 rounds and it actually being a strangely compelling fight. Because like what Mark said is when 2 counter fighters meet each other, that's how you can really talented people like an Izzy Adesanya can have boring fights in there. See the Romero fight, but when you have a charging bull that wants to fight them, it brings out the best in their abilities. So maybe that propels Valentina to a finish. But yeah, I'm just gonna say I think Andrade is tough enough, and she is like game enough to take like 2 rounds off of her.
Right on. All right, guys. Rematch of a fight from Ring of Combat back at, when the fuck was this? September 24th, 2010.
I'll presume Chris Weidman won because I'm pretty sure he was undefeated.
I've actually watched
in that
this.
UFC run.
Chris Weidman beat Uriah Hall by knockout in 3 minutes and 6 seconds. It was Chris Weidman's first fight at middleweight. God, he got into the UFC with 4 wins. Weidman really was a prospect. Chris Weidman, guys, it's not going well. He had to get that win he got over Omari Akhmedov. Shit was desperation mode for Weidman. If I think he gets paid a lot of money, and if however many fights he has left on his UFC contract is how many fights I think he's going to have in the UFC. That's where I am with Chris Weidman. Uriah Hall gets a lot of shit from Dana White, even when he wins. Didn't think he looked bad beating Anderson Silva, to be honest. He was probably nicer than he should have been. Uriah Hall's won 4 of 5 fights. His only loss is to Paulo Costa. I thought he was doing okay against Paulo Costa too, which is he got knocked out ultimately. But when it was at range, I thought he looked pretty good. Betting line for this one, Steph. This one's got to be close, I'm imagining.
This is what I refer to as the scummiest of Vegas betting lines. It is double minus 110. So you can't even get even money. It's the same betting line, but it favors the house either way.
Realistically, given the way these guys have been fighting, if Weidman didn't have this win over him already, what do you think the line would have been?
I'm shocked that it's even. Uriah should be the favorite. Based on this stage in their careers, Uriah
minus 150, 160 probably.
Yeah, you think it doesn't have to be 2-1, but he should be distinctly the favorite in my opinion.
Not that I don't want to write off Weidman's chances because Weidman can win this fight. He's notedly a better grappler. Man's got a goddamn not a national championship, but he was an All-American. He's a very good grappler on the ground too, jiu-jitsu wise. I'm not picking him to win this fight, man. I got Uriah Hall getting it done here. I think it's going to be a big win for Uriah Hall. And I think he's going to knock him out, actually. I think Uriah Hall motivated is interesting always. And I think this one is stuck in his crawl for a while. We were trying to get this fight for a couple tries now. Didn't somebody get COVID, I think? I think Weidman might have gotten COVID somewhere in the middle here. Yep. He did get COVID, which, given what that's doing to people, not comfortable picking him anyway. I got Uriah Hall getting a finish, actually, though. I think this is actually going to be a decent-looking fight, too. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is one of the ones where if I was going last, I probably would have definitely, because I think you guys are all probably going to go Hall. I'm going to go Weidman. I just think stylistically he's a bad matchup. And it is easy to look at this record and be like, yeah, he's been falling on tough times. But I look at the record and I'm like, these are fucking killers. So like everyone he lost to is title contenders. I mean, you look at Uriah Hall too. Like, yeah, all the guys he's lost to are kind of in that same boat. So I do think it's a compelling match. And I know Weidman has looked pretty haggard, and that does give me some hesitation here. But I just it's a gut feeling. I got Weidman in this one.
In fairness, he did beat him already. So, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, but that was also almost 11 years ago. A lot of things changed in 11 years. Think back to where you guys were in 2010, all right? I'm pretty sure there's some guys back then whose asses you could kick that you probably can't kick their asses anymore,
I was definitely in better shape in 2010.
There's a bunch of 21-year-olds right now. There's a bunch of 21-year-olds right now that 11 years ago, you could whoop their ass.
When they were 11-year-olds, I would have beat the shit out of those little kids.
With those pearls of wisdom, I'm picking Hall.
I mean, isn't Hall the basis of the plum pick when he beat Gegard Mousasi? Isn't that where that plum pick came from?
That is indeed correct.
Yeah. Hall also won me and Mike some money in a decision he didn't deserve over Antonio Carlos Jr. about a year and a half ago. So we're riding high on the Hall juice right now. Stefan, who do you got?
I mean, Hall won me money when he had a broken toe that he came into the fight that way. It always looked like that. Don't look at it.
We were yelling so loud. No, he's fine. He's fine.
He survived that decision. Y'all, this has been a really kind round of picking. There's been a lot of praise and effusal of Chris Weidman's ability. So pardon me if I get a little hyperbolic now. Sometimes you guys do the laundry and then you're about to transfer something to the dryer and then you take a sniff of it and you're like, oh, that's not clean yet. Let's do a second cycle. That's Chris Weidman. You say Chris Weidman has been affected by COVID. His injuries the last few years, he was constantly injured. Like, he was having back issues, he was having knee issues, he was having neck issues. The man his chin has gone down. The man is deteriorating fast. He went from the guy who ruined the mythos of Anderson Silva to he just started physically deteriorating. And that's father time, but that's the fighter I see. Like,
point of clarification from Stefan. What type of body secretions you got that when you run something through the washing machine once, you take it out, you like, this needs to go again.
You know what? Sometimes you need to use the cold wash because you're like, I don't think we need to get in this with the hot water. Then you ran the cold wash. You're like, nah, we have to get in there with the hot water. That's what happened. That's what this is the situation.
It's also not always nefarious. Sometimes, Mikey, at the Korean barbecue, you sitting there, you're grilling meats, you cook it, and you're like, this still smells like smoke.
You know what?
Smoke has not come out of this hoodie. If that,
you know what? Smoke... I forgot about those external factors. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Steph, you know what? There's no one I'm more confident about being a clean fighter than Chris Weidman because I'm like, this dude needs to get on something. He's got too many injuries.
His body fell apart when a lot of people are in their primes, So it just... I'm not saying it to be malicious, but the man is physically he is a shell of his... Where Hall has oddly maintained, for being roughly the same age, Hall's kind of maintained the course, right? He never hit those highs we wanted, but he never really sunk into the lows of lows. He's really just been cruising down the middle.
All I'm going to say is through this process of picking, I believe my pick just blossomed into a plum pick, baby.
All right, finally, this last one. Jimmy Crute, UFC prospect, 25-year-old light heavyweight from Australia. Jimmy the Brute Crute. Didn't have a chance to choose a different nickname, this kid, man. Had no chance. He couldn't go with Eagle or something. Like, fuck you. You're the Brute. Bouncing back from his loss to Misha Serkinov by Peruvian necktie back in September 2019. Man got 2 finishes against 2 people we don't recognize, but 2 performances and night bonuses. He's taken on Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, a man who really needed that win he got against Devin Clark. Straight up. Really, really needed that win. Betting line for this one, Stefan?
Jimmy Crute minus 185, Anthony Smith plus 160.
Yeah, I'm taking the guy who didn't pick his teeth off the mat last year. I'm sorry, that image stuck with me. I'm probably wrong. I think the betting line is factoring in how bad Anthony Smith got his ass whooped in some of these fights. I'm picking the 25-year-old because I have hope for this division. Because the next title contender is 42 years old, and we need some young people to come up. Mark?
Yeah, this one's tough. I let the line choose it for me too. I'm going with Jimmy. I mean, it's hard. Anthony Smith has had a real up and down career. He's had some high highs.
They booked. Sorry to cut you off, but they booked this for him to lose. This is a 25-year-old against a former title contender. This is booked for Jimmy to lose.
Yeah, I think it's close. I think it could be competitive. I'm not going to be shocked if Anthony Smith wins, but yeah, I'm going to play the numbers. After you pick a plum pick, you got to play the numbers a little bit. So I'm going with Jimmy.
Mike.
Mark knows the strategy with them plum picks. All right, he's learning. Atta boy, so proud of you.
I won this more than anyone else, right? And you have not won it. So I appreciate the support.
Overall,
Mark's Mike's not picking another underdog outside of Rose for the rest of this year. We've got to make up for the fucking Askren pick.
It's all about chalk this year, baby. Yeah, I'm going with the prospect in this one.
Stefan.
Mark, you say you cruise into the lead with that 10-point modifier. Just
Also, I'm here giving props to Mark, and he just shits on me. Did anybody else realize that?
This is the first time Mark's ever really laid it on Mike for having never won this. It's normally me or Stefan.
Well, he's telling me now
I'm giving praise to Mark, and Mark just goes, hey, fuck you.
You're the guy who's never won. You're telling me now you're learning, boy. It's like,
I was
don't call
gonna say,
me,
Mike,
boy. Don't call me. Like, I don't know what I'm
I
doing
was
here.
just
Mike, you tried to sun him.
talking about specifically about the plum pigs.
No, Mike, you tried to sun him a little bit, and Mark's just like, yo, what's up?
I gotta put you in your place. We had a line. You got a little out of line. I just gotta put you back in line a little bit. Don't say, hey, but I did say right after I put you back in line, I said I do appreciate the support, but I gotta put you back at the end of the line.
I forgot what we're doing here. You got.
I'm making it a clean sweep with Crute.
Okay.
I've been really hard on Anthony Smith in the past, and it's unnecessary. He is a career kind of journeyman guy who peaked by getting a crack at the Mount Olympus, right? He was never going to sit atop of it, but the fact that he made it up there in the first place, that's truly the mark of his career. So, you know what? I don't need to be as hard on him as I have been. But he is at the stage of his career. Like you said, Bob, he's being fed of being build the resume up of the next guy. That's kind of where he is now.
So, yeah, we had all of us picking Usman, Mike and I picking Rose, which I've immediately lost my faith in because I'm picking with Mike. It went so well last week. We're all picking Valentina. Mark is taking Weidman, the rest of us taking Hall, and a clean sweep for Jimmy Crute, a man that not one of us can pick out of a lineup, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Is he white or black?
He's from Australia.
He's white.
Oh, come on. Name like Crute, he is white. He is for sure white.
The Brute.
Watch him come out as the most finesse, technical flair, like just such precision. Beautiful combos.
Yeah, Anthony Smith is 32 years old, and we've already just
should have
50 fucking fights.
Jimmy's nickname should be Jimmy Crouton. That'd be great.
That is good.
So his nickname is then just officially on at that point.
So look, it works both ways. Jimmy Crouton, everyone loves croutons, or he could say it's a play on Jimmy Neutron because he's a genius.
I thought it was the latter.
All right, let's do stuff we like.
Mm-hmm.
I got mine's gonna be one of them's gonna be kind of weird. Stuff I like. One of them is Steph Curry, because in a season where we're not gonna win anything, we might make the playoffs. Steph Curry's just out here killing it. He just put up another 49 points just now. I might have broken the record for most consecutive games or something with over a certain number before. I forgot what it was. Whatever. Steph Curry shooting the lights out. It's a pleasure to see.
I believe it was 9 games with 30 points or more by the late, great Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, he just broke that then. 49 points, 10 3-pointers. Appreciate Steph Curry, man. Nobody has been king of the Bay Area like him probably since like Joe Montana in 1982 or whatever. I mean, man runs shit around here. And he's it's a pleasure to watch him, and God willing, he never leaves us. But yeah. And I watched Birds of Prey. It was
nice.
Honestly, yeah, well, because I was watching I was gonna watch Harley Quinn again, the show, and I'm like, let me watch Birds of Prey. And I did, and I was just the feeling I have with most of these DC movies where I'm just like, yeah, okay. It wasn't bad necessarily. I just at the end of it thought I'm just gonna go back and watch the Harley Quinn cartoon.
That is better.
I will say I don't mean to be harsh on it because I like to give the DC movies a chance. I don't revel in them like not doing well. I gave Birds of Prey a shot. I couldn't finish it. It just didn't hold my interest. That I'm like I could be watching something else right now.
I think she's a good Harley Quinn though overall. I think Margot Robbie she plays that role well.
I mean,
not really give a shit about the other dude's Joker.
I mean, that's why she's been Harley Quinn for 2 movies that were at best average, and she's still Harley Quinn for a 3rd time.
Yeah, did you guys, by the way, hear who's going to be in the Flash movie?
Nope.
I heard Billy Crudup was supposed to be in it, but he had to bow out.
I mean, someone's playing Batman in this movie.
Michael Keaton.
Hell yeah, he is.
Okay, all right.
Hell
I
yeah,
did
he is.
see-
Wait, I heard that Michael Keaton might be bowing out because he found out more about the movie, and he's like, I don't know if I still want to do this anymore.
No, what the fuck? Don't ruin it for me, Stefan. He's Batman.
That was the last I heard. Is he's not so sure about this project anymore.
He might be the best Batman. Okay,
I'm not
be the best.
questioning his Batman place. I'm questioning if Michael Keaton wants to do the Flash movie anymore.
I thought it was that he wasn't going to do it because he didn't want to travel, and then I guess now he's vaccinated, so Keaton's ready to, be Batman. Yeah, that's all I really got this week. I mean, we're not going to talk. I mean, we have one more episode of Winter Soldier, and
yeah.
It's gotten interesting. I'll say that. Mike, what do you got this week?
Yeah. So for me this week, it's about individual, man. Over the last week and a half or so, it feels like we've lost a lot of people. A lot of famous, important people. In particular, the one I'm going to talk about is someone who's a New York legend. He's a Queens legend. All right. Started out in Far Rockaway. He made an impact out in these streets, man. Like everybody knew his name, mate. Like worldwide. All right. He had everybody like, whoa.
Oh, fuck you, Mike. Oh, fuck you.
And of course, I'm talking about Bernie Madoff. Rest in peace, my G.
Oh, let's check this shit out.
Scammer on scammers, finesse gods, Bernie Madoff.
Yo, I say Black Rob died while we're watching this Triller thing, and Mike's just like, who Black Rob? And then me and Sal, I love you, Sal. Sal's white as hell, all right? Have to explain who Black Rob is to Mike, all right? And then once he played the song, Mike's like, "Oh, now Mike got emotional almost."
I heard Black Rob's name since junior year of high school, man. Leave me alone.
Yo, he got the song. Whoa, he was in Bad Boy for Life. What else do you want from the man? All right,
literally just named two things.
That's all you need from him.
Bernie Madoff,
okay.
Finesse God.
Yeah, he's the reason the Mets got sold, right? Wasn't that what he did?
Yeah. But in all seriousness, fuck that guy. He made the Mets even bigger penny pinchers than they're normally supposed to be.
He ruined the Sacramento Kings.
He also ruined a bunch of people's lives. He also
did
ruined
do that
a bunch
too.
of people's lives.
But
big thing.
Yeah, he ended the Kings being relevant for a long time.
Yeah, the Maloofs got taken for quite a ride.
They got worked. The Maloofs got worked by that. The Maloofs had to sell the team, the Palms, fucking everything.
On an ancillary note, if you guys haven't seen the Bernie Madoff movie where Robert De Niro is playing him, you should watch that. It's pretty good. I think it's on HBO.
You don't want to give your thoughts on King Kong versus Godzilla? Now that you
that was a piece of steaming dog shit. That Superman punch was not worth it to watch that movie.
Mike was trying to argue he's like, I don't get the plot. I'm like, who gives a shit? What do you mean? You got anything else?
In Kong versus Godzilla, King Kong has an axe. You forgot to mention that.
I mean, that's fair. I didn't mention that. He does have an axe.
I mean, Godzilla's got fire, nuke breath. Gotta give King Kong something.
Also, Mechagodzilla.
Big monkey.
Mechagodzilla was dog shit, all right? That man was a disappointment.
Mark, you watched a movie this weekend, right?
I did not.
Okay. I was going to say, I wanted to get Mark's thoughts. My opinion on these movies is just that all the humans think these creatures have more thoughts and emotional feelings than they really do. Anyway, Mark, what do you got this week?
Yeah, I just got a couple things. Obviously, Winter Soldier and Incredible still going on. Those have been great. I started watching the HBO show The Nevers, which just started up last week. That's just Victorian X-Men, more or less, to put it in a box. I like it. It's good. It's fun. Instead, gearing up, I thought I was going to watch Godzilla vs. Kong. So to gear up, I watched Rampage instead. And that movie was all right. It wasn't that bad.
Stuff we like at this point is just like, hey, I did this.
Well, it was really I was watching that movie and towards the end of it when they're actually rampaging, I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty good for a video game movie. The bar's pretty low on those. And then the end kind of some of the quality. I mean, I'm just going to ruin the movie. Basically at the end, The Rock likes the big ape, they're friends or whatever. He goes crazy because George, yeah, which is another thing that really was just okay, I guess I know it's an Easter egg, for like in the office of the people that like give the chemical that make them go crazy, they have a rampage machine. They have like an arcade machine for the rampage game, and they're calling like, oh, and everyone's calling the wolf Ralph, and it's like, okay, but you have the game. You made the game become real. It's like there's too much fourth wall break. My mind can't take it. Mostly at the end, it's like, okay,
I want to watch this movie now.
this chemical made the animals get big and go crazy, and then they lure them into Chicago and they rampage in Chicago. And of course, once they get the antidote to George, he gets his faculties back, and he was always a good ape. You know, him and Rock had a good. So they're like, you know what? Like at one point, they're like, you know what? He saved a lot of lives. I was like, I just saw him kill a bunch of fucking people too. Like he doesn't just get off this shit. Literally, how he gets the antidote is they like the woman that's like the evil woman. Like he throws her up and eats her. So it's like, well, he definitely didn't save her. There was no due process on her. And I definitely
Mike, you were listening to this? Mark's gonna have a real problem with the Godzilla plot then too. If he's having an issue,
I was watching it to gear up and be like, okay, I got some flavor. But overall, like, you know, for a dumb, stupid, you know, action movie, it checked those boxes. And also, did not know this, Uriah Faber's in that movie.
Yeah,
I was like, I saw him and I was like, what the fuck? It's like, I guess they needed someone to look kind of badass, but also to make the other characters look even bigger and more badass because he's everyone's hovering over this guy. But yeah, overall, the Nevers I thought is actually, you know, a pretty fun show. It's only 2 episodes in, so you know, can't say too much about it, but really enjoyed that. And Rampage was okay, so that's what I got this week.
Stefan, what do you got?
You know, it's funny you made a joke about stuff we're pretty lukewarm about. I'm going to start by mentioning stuff I really dislike. Because last week we spent all our stuff I like largely on WrestleMania. And then April 15th occurred.
And
we're
going to talk about that. Okay.
So let me just say, anytime you guys talk about wrestling for the next few months, I'm checked out because the WWE fired my 2 favorite women, the Iconics, and they fired out after Cesaro, the guy who I just like. He's actually the guy I believe should have gotten a push even over Cesaro because in the words of Jim Cornette, who's largely an asshole, if you know who that is, his quote is, "How do you fuck up Samoa Joe?" Samoa Joe should be one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling, in the pro wrestling pantheon, and I agree with that. Joe did so little. He accomplished so little in WWE, but look at his promos. Like when he goes off on Brock Lesnar, there's one where he like goes off on everybody in the ring, where he hits Roman, he hits Jeff Hardy, he gets AJ. Like Joe is the best talker in pro wrestling that people don't know is the best talker in pro wrestling. And so just, you know,
Brock loved him. You can see Brock loved it too. Brock's like, all right, I can wrestle. I can fucking go with this guy.
All reports were is Heyman and Brock wanted him to drop it to Joe, but Vince nixed it.
Well, do you know the story of why Joe took Joe so long to get to the WWE, right? Like they said Joe, he's too fat. They said, right? And they asked, well, okay, they were asking Bruce Pritchard this. And before he was getting a WWE paycheck again. And they're like, well, fuck, man. You know, they had Umaga, they had Yokozuna, they had all these other fat Samoans. Why didn't they sign Joe? It's like, well, Joe wasn't part of the family. The only Samoan not part of the NOIE family couldn't get a job till he was like 37 years old, basically. 36 years old, because he was too fat. Samoa Joe is going to make a lot of money if he can still wrestle wherever he goes.
And then just, you know, I know a lot of people are more whatever about the Iconics, but the Iconics have personality, which is
they'll be fine too.
Very, very lacking in the women's division. There's a lot of there's much more talented wrestlers than the 2 of them, but what are their characters, right? Like they broke them up, and Billy was the push was going to go to Peyton. Billy was the one who was left to flounder, and she turned a resume gimmick into must-see Friday. Part of why people have loved Friday Night SmackDown and where Raw is like hemorrhaging is Billy is part of it weekly, and to see them be a part of the cuts, I was just so disappointed. So,
well, you know what it is, man. She did the cardinal sin. Mike's learned it. Mike's watching enough wrestling now. If you get over, it's not okay if you don't get over the way we want you to get over.
It was either Kevin Dunn or Bruce Pritchard, one of their big like VP executives.
It was done.
I think his exact quote is, "I don't get Billy Kay. I don't get."
He didn't get Becky Lynch either.
Even the whole angle where Billy Kay was like trying to be part of the Riot Squad, it was so cringe but so great at the same time.
Well, she kept going like, Riot Squad, whoa, and she'd like throw up like the fucking devil horns. You know, like
she had the punk outfit and she was wearing like a Blink 182 shirt. She was really, really good. People were calling her the
They'll
female
both be fine.
Damien Mizdow for when Damien Sandow did the shadow sidekick thing, where he was like the more funny like pairing. But
I honestly think they're both going to be okay. Both, I think they'll go somewhere together, and I think they'll do fine.
certainly,
honestly.
and it doesn't mean that they can't bounce back later. A lot of people have built up their star elsewhere, raised their stock, and then the WWE is undeniable, and they want to give them that money back. But that said, just starting on a downer because that's really going to nuke my interest in pro wrestling for a while.
Record profits, Stefan.
Yeah, coming off a record profit. But in terms of stuff I actually do like, I got a giant Asian flavor pack of it, so I'll try to give some quick hits. I got at least 2 of the guys started on Warrior, and it came out, and it was my great hope, and it's why I've been preaching it to you guys. It was a part of many shows that got axed that was Cinemax was producing, but my big hope was, hey, now that it's on HBO Max, maybe people will find it. Maybe they'll start getting those viewership numbers. People will say like, oh, this is actually a really good show. And it happened. HBO Max picked it up. HBO Max is going to in-house produce season 3 of Warrior. So I'm super, super excited about that. In K-pop, I discovered a new group that I really like, a rookie group. They're called Weekly with 3 E's because you can't just look up regular Weekly. That'll come up with way too many results. But their song After School is currently my song of the year in K-pop. Have been listening to it nonstop. We got a new season of anime. I was telling Mike, it's really action-packed animes. Yeah, the rom-com genre has really kind of been my slice of life fare. And there is one called Higehiro. It's one of those shows where it's got that ridiculously long title. After I got dumped, I shaved and I took in a high school runway. So Higehiro for short, but it has potential that it could go off the rails and turn really creepy. But as it stands, it could be a really wholesome story about found family, which is really nice. But in terms of the action front, I mentioned this show called 86, which is a very kind of sci-fi Terminator meets Hunger Games. There's one I want to check out called Mars Red, which I believe it's like vampires in 1920s Japan. And then there's a group of other vampires that kind of get hired to hunt the vampires. So it's Blade meets Samurai Champloo kind of. And there's one that I find interesting. It's called Odd Taxi. On the surface level, it seems like kind of a Japanese Pixar movie about like a myriad city of animals. It follows one of them who's a taxi driver and just, his little one-off slice of life interactions he has driving around different passengers. But it turns out they're connected and there's actually a murder in place. So this actually might be a big psychological mystery thriller. And if, in fact, maybe none of these people are animals and it's just the taxi driver having hallucinations of how he sees the world. So it's kind of turning into a weird cerebral trip thing that seems interesting. To Your Eternity is not an action thing, but from what I know of it, it's just sweeping art. It just tells a really moving story. I haven't started it yet, but having seen a handful of anime reaction channels, every single person has cried in the first episode. So it seems like it's, you got to prepare yourself to be in that mentally heavy space when checking it out. But just another big season of anime. I'll report more once I kind of figure out which ones I'm going to be seeing through to the end. But definitely a lot of ones to check out.
Nice.
Right on. All right, guys, we're going to be back next week. We're going to see if we got any new champions. Possibly 3. Possibly 0. Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Can Kamaru win the BMF title if he beats him twice?
That's true. They just give him that.
At what point does Jorge just cede that belt due to not winning fights?
We're gonna preview. Good lord, this is a real card. Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochazka. Main event, 5 rounds.
All right.
Cool. All right, that's happening. We'll talk about something, I'm sure. WWF will fire somebody else, make Stephon further angry. Who could it be at this point to make him further? It'd have to be someone Cesaro, maybe. That'll probably do it.
Shinsuke. Let's just cut everyone's stuff on likes.
I think Shinsuke leaves, you'll be fine with it. He'll go back to New Japan. He'll be happy at that point. All right. I think that's all we got this week. We'll be back next week. Thank you all for listening. Really do appreciate it. I was Dr. Law. That was Kid Presentable. That was Lavender Gooms. And that was DJ Mark. Peace out.
See ya.